And speaking of the devil, we are back with Umar again. Now we
Man,
got you. Yeah, we going back to back on Umar, the
wow.
second of two gems on the Joe Budden podcast, where Umar Johnson was pontificating on his various opinions.
Mm.
And they got onto the subject of hip hop, and they got onto the subject of Eminem. Umar Johnson is not here for any talk that has
Wow.
anything to do with Eminem being mentioned as one of the greatest hip hop artists of all time, the greatest rappers of all time. He don't want none of it. He is not having it. Umar Johnson believes that a white person, or rather a non-black person, cannot do black stuff better than black people who created it. And
Black
so
stuff.
fundamentally, he refuses to accept the idea that Eminem can be considered one of the greatest rappers of all time. So, interesting comments to be sure. His comments on Eminem went so viral that he had to clarify, not even clarify because he doubled down, but he
Double
had to come, yeah, he had to come out to double down on what he had to say about Eminem. So, first, here are his initial comments on how he feels about Eminem being mentioned as one of the greatest rappers of all time.
that. Yeah. That's exactly what I signed up for.
All
Oh,
right, so that went viral across the
that's
interwebs.
great.
Yes. So that went viral across the interwebs, so much so that Umar Johnson had to come out of the shadows to double down
Oh no.
on how he feels about this. So he went on Instagram Live to clarify and even further dig himself into his hole that you're not going to smoke him out of. So here is more about how he feels about this. Oh, well, let me refresh it. Hold on.
This is great, man. I told you, man. I used to go from a heavy critic. Now this stuff is just comedy gold to me, man.
All right,
I
here we
love
go. Here's Umar with his double down.
I said that no non African can ever be the best of anything in African culture. You can't be the best cook of African food. You can't be the best rapper of African hip hop. You can't be the best singer. You can't be the best priest of African culture. Nothing we create can a non African be the best at. First of all, it makes absolutely no sense at all. I don't even see how an African can come to the conclusion
it.
that a non African can be the best at anything when we are the oldest people. We are the first people, and we are the most numerous people. So when you say a non African is better at X, Y, and Z than a member of the race, you're saying that this person can do this better than 2 billion Africans. Or you're saying not only can they do it better than 2 billion Africans on the planet, you're saying they can do it better than all of the billions of Africans that have ever walked the planet Earth. You know, and I know that that is absolutely ridiculous. You know, and I know that that is absolutely ridiculous. You know, like I know, that that is absolutely ridiculous. And from a cultural integrity perspective, this is not about Mr. Marshall Mathers. I don't have nothing personal against that man. But from a cultural integrity perspective, haven't they stolen enough from us? Haven't they appropriated enough from us? Haven't haven't they stolen enough from us? Haven't they appropriated enough from us? Haven't they robbed, steal, killed, enslaved, lynched, miseducated, mass incarcerated, politically dominated us enough that you mean to tell me That after 404 years, you got black people running around playing defense attorney and cheerleader for white folks. You got black people running around after 404 years playing defense attorney and cheerleader. The fact that you got black people arguing
Ooh.
for a white man to be considered the greatest of all time in an African art form speaks to how psychologically ill we are as a race of people.
All right, I think that's it. Yeah, that was the last one.
Oh man.
Yeah, so he went to his Instagram to go in even more. So damn, Eminem just catching all kind of bodies
Oh,
um, through this innocent bystander style. But yes, what did you think about his take on this situation?
um, like most things Umar says, um, there's some truth to it, but he takes it to the extreme. And so, now me personally, I have different reasons why I don't feel like Eminem's one of the best rappers of all time. All right. But for the reasons that he stated, um, that no white person can do anything just as good as or anything that was created by black. Hey, guess what, man? There's a lot of stuff that was created by black people. So if there was an arcade game that was created and there was a whole bunch of arcade games and all races of people can play them, I'm pretty sure some white people are going to get some high scores on some of on these machines. And so it happens. So whether I like it or he likes it or not, Eminem scores high on this damn machine. Now, do I still have him in my top? No, because I have a different criteria. I don't know where all these people are coming from outside of propaganda they've been given since they were in middle school or high school. That Eminem's one of the top MCs ever. But be that as it may, I feel as though he's taking it to the extreme. All right, white people can't be good at stuff black people created because we create a lot of fly stuff, and there's some white people that picked up classical music and they're pretty fire at it. So you can't be mad at that, right? So, or there's some people out there that picked up you know karate and martial arts. They're pretty good at that too, and they're not you know so there's all kinds of things out there. So for people to be putting anybody on a higher mark than over black people, they're more than welcome to do that. I personally think those Eminemites, and I'm sorry if any one of you guys are watching. I mean, if you really feel like he's one of the top five, hip hop artists of all time, please state your reasons. I would love to hear them, and please just do not mention album sales as part of your argument. I feel as though he's a talented man, but I feel as though he is overrated. But what are your thoughts about all of this? With Umar Johnson stating that no white man can be the greatest of all time and something created by Africans.
I don't know whether that's true or not in totality, but I agree with him when it comes to this music. I do see that. I concede that. I also don't believe Eminem is as great as everyone says that he is. I have gone on the record though. I think he has a window. Eminem is like Eminem is like Eli Manning.
Mm.
Like Eli Manning spent the majority of his career leading the league in interceptions and missing the playoffs. But he won two Super Bowls, has two Super Bowl MVPs, and beat the team that had they lost to these guys, they would be universally recognized as the greatest team of all time, the Patriots in 2007. Like if the Patriots had won that Super Bowl, they would be the greatest team ever. Now, Brady inevitably went on to still be the greatest quarterback ever, but had they won that game, it would have been cemented back then. Brady's the best quarterback ever, and the Patriots are the greatest team of all time. Eli Manning and the Giants. They beat them in the Super Bowl to stop all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they won again. I forget who they play in the Patriots that in the Super Bowl that year. The 49ers when they won again, and and Manningham caught that sideline ball, and that was like the big play of that game. Somebody fact check me on that. But Eli Manning reminds me of Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Eli Manning's career is interceptions in the double digits, 20, 25 picks, missing the playoffs, looking like he's lost out there on the field. Like, what the hell is this guy doing? But he's got the two Super Bowls, the two Super Bowl MVPs. And so people tend to catapult him higher than he otherwise should be. And Eminem is like that for me with the first three albums of his career. The first three albums of his career, in my opinion, was great stuff, strictly on the musical sense. I thought that his content was good. I thought his skills were good. I thought the production on the music was good. And I felt like he was giving his truth, his story, and he was doing it in an effective way. But obviously, there's an entire huge mass of his career past that. And if you factor in everything after that, there's no way in the world you can look at Eminem, in my opinion, as someone other than he was good. He was good. He was good. If you want to go great, we can have that debate if you want to use the word great. I'd say that for the majority of the time that he's been active, he's been good if you factor in the totality of his career. So I hear what Umar is saying, but I think strictly from a musical standpoint is where I go. And I do think that when it comes to this music, this
Mm-hmm.
this hip hop stuff, kind of hard to argue against what he's saying because I can just list 10 people right off the top of my head without even giving it a second thought who I think are better than him. But I don't know that but and whether you want to correlate that with the fact that it was an art form that was created by black people, you can make that correlation if you want. That's fine. But whatever rationale you use to break that down, I think it's a foregone conclusion. However, overall, I'm uncomfortable with his remarks because I think that it opens up the door for people to make these false equivalencies in other areas of human existence and make the assertion that, well, white people did this, and so if white people are created this or did really good at this, a black person can never be as good as this white person at that. And that's the danger in those kinds of comments.
He's got an answer
Because
for that.
yeah, 'cause like what's going to be next? So some savvy, white person can say, okay, well then if that's the case, black people will never be able to be a good economist. A black person will never be a good engineer. A black person will never be a good venture capitalist. A black person will never be a good angel investor. Like these are all things that we tend to associate with white people, certainly more than black people. And I'm uncomfortable with the notion that you're going to have people out there who want to draw these false equivalencies based on his comments by suggesting if that's the case, then here are all the things y'all can't be good at, or here are all of the things y'all can't be the greatest of all time at. I don't like that, especially when you're dealing with, me. I've always felt like we need to think outside of the confines of sports and athletics and rap and hip hop. As an aside, while I was on vacation,
Mhm.
I visited the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture in D.C.
Huh?
Mind blowing experience. Mind blowing experience. And they have an exhibit currently in there on Afrofuturism,
Mhm.
which catalogs going back hundreds of years how black people were pioneers in things like fantasy, science fiction, um, all of these things, aliens, outer space, spaceships, the mothership, all of these different types of stories, fantasy novels, and all of these different kind of things. We were at the forefront of a lot of that, but a lot of that gets shrouded in history. My point in bringing that up is fantasy novels, science fiction, these things are oftentimes associated more with non-black people than black people currently in the current in the current universe that we live in. Not that
Mhm.
it's accurate, but culturally, that's kind of how we look at it. Societally, it plays out that way. People think about Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings before they think about any sort of piece of black fiction that deals with space and time travel and aliens and orcs and wizards that was created by black people, even though black people were at the forefront of that hundreds of years ago. But that's kind of what's happened. So my whole thing is, because that's the state that we are in, because that's where we're at, I do not like the idea that you can diametrically oppose Umar Johnson's comments to the opposite point of that spectrum, where people will suggest black people can't be good at something if the majority of it has been curated, perfected, hell, even invented by white people. I don't like that. So that's my point of contention with what he is saying here. I like to talk about this kind of stuff specifically within the context of music. And specifically within the context of music, I hear what he's saying. Eminem ain't up there. I think you and I both agree. I think I give Eminem a little more credit than you do, but admittedly, I hold his first three albums in decent regard. Personally, I do. I think that they were great albums, and I think that his skill level at the time was exemplary. So I'm going to give him that credit. But for me, it stops there. There are 15, 20 guys who I can name off the top of my head who I would say are better than him. And I would just end the conversation there, both from a skill standpoint and from a catalog standpoint. I'm with you on that album sales stuff. Who cares? That's like the LeBron argument for greatest of all time because he scored all these points and has all these triple doubles and numbers. Whatever. Who cares? It's an amalgamation of different sets of criteria that factors into all of that, not one particular thing over the other. So I just like to keep that kind of conversation within a musical context, because when you start going into we invented this so white people can't be good at it or great, okay, well then what is somebody going to say that we don't culturally, societally have a significant foothold in, and therefore we can never be great at that too. So that's what I'm uncomfortable about. So, I hear what he's saying. He's a fundamentalist, and fundamentalists tend to see things from a binary standpoint. If you are this, you should be thinking this. If you are this, you should have these beliefs and values. That's how fundamentalists roll. It's 0 to 100 real quick. There's no nuance. There's no in between. And he's no different. That's how he feels. If you're
Mhm.
black, you can't be thinking Eminem is great because black people created it. In point blank in the story. Okay, fine, cool. I look at this from a musical perspective, and that's how far I'll take it, because there's all sorts of things going on out here in the world, different areas and facets of human existence where participation in these things directly contribute to the betterment of humans, everybody. And you're not going to tell me that black people can't do that greatly because it was perfected or invented or started or curated by white people. And I feel like you open up the floodgates for that type of commentary with comments like that. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, I didn't think about it that way, but that's why I told you he has an answer for this. He's got an answer for all of that. And mostly, is that every most things are African. And
Yeah.
so he's going to give you all of that. So his whole thing is if the I mean, once anybody wants to trace back evolution to wherever everything began at, I mean, it all started in Africa. And then people wanted to have their theories from there. If there was a monkey person that converted, guess what? It was a black person. It was in Africa. So from there, then we have all other theories or whatever. But the main thing, climate change and whoop-de-whoop, but everybody started off Africa. And for a long time there was just a lot of black people. And so for that, there was a lot of things that got started. So religions, mathematics, all kinds of monuments, all this other good stuff, astrology, all these fly fancy things. So in order to get civilization started, you kind of had to have a lot of things already figured out. And so for him, he's going to tell you that whatever it is that these other people want to claim that they created, it was fathered by
Right.
right. And so his whole thing is like, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so, and from there, it's like, okay, well, it was picked up, curated. Okay, fine, you know. But if applied, his theory would be, if applied, we would be, doing windmills from the free throw line. Because when we're, doing what we're doing, when we're doing it, we're running the fastest times in the Olympics. We're doing windmills from the free throw line. We're shooting from
Mhm.
more than half court. So if we're in the arena of engineering, whoop de whoop de whoop. But we're not there. We're doing other things. But that would be his whole argument. And
Yeah.
and so it could open a slippery door, but he's got an answer. But
Hmm.
the thing is, with all of this stuff and just keeping it in the lanes of hip hop, uh, again, it has nothing to do. I mean, there's some white boys that's just cold when it comes to certain things. And as much as you go, hey man, you ain't coming to the barbecue, you ain't coming to the barbecue. At some point, it's like, hey man, this guy's gotta be on board. I'm just a hater at this point if I'm just not telling this person. And so, once they get to that part, it's like, hey man, hey, this guy's good at this, you know. And so it's kind of like watching, bro. If you watch Christian McCaffrey run,
I was going, that's who I was gonna bring up.
if you watch that boy run, now I'm not trying to hate on him, but I'm like, all right, because there's too much steam. I'm like, look, all this steam. I'm like, all right, yeah, because he white boy. That's what I'm thinking. I'm sitting here watching him play, but I'm like, all right, there's brothers that did that. But now it's just like brothers ain't do that. They're not doing that. And so it's getting to a point where it's like, hey man, this guy's just a machine. I think he was honestly engineered in the lab. But when you see that boy, man, he is cold. So sometimes, man, white boys be doing stuff that's fire. I wouldn't be hating on Eminem. I'm not hating on Eminem. I just don't think he's fire. And like you said, I can
Yeah.
easily name 10 or 15 guys that's just better than him. Sorry.
Yeah.
And if the only thing you're gonna tell me is hi, my name is, get out of here. Or Stan or anything else. Venom. Anything of y'all songs y'all got from him, man. I ain't trying to hear it, bro. So yeah, man. Umar, he's all over the place. I'm all over the place. But one thing about it, man, I got a great laugh out of this one. So
Yeah.
big out to Umar.
Yeah, yeah. Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, which to me was the best one, and the Eminem Show, in my
Mhm.
opinion, those were great pieces of music. After
Yeah.
that, it's very questionable. It's very questionable, and I don't look at Typically, I am a peak versus longevity guy.
Mhm.
Um, typically, but that's mostly applies to sports because in sports you have a physical prime and then things fall off. In music, as long as your mind stays sharp, you can do that into perpetuity. Look at Nas. Um and um so I don't really give the peak over longevity card. I tend to look at the careers in totality, and I think for me personally, after that third album, Eminem is just Eli Manning. That's legitimately how I look at it. And so yeah, I kind of think that it's overstated.
Well, we gonna get
um
chewed up for that, Eli.
Whatever. 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 I don't give a damn. It is
Uh,
what it is, man. Eminem is what he is. But, you know, thanks to Umar for the content. I
yes,
was gonna bring
man.
up McCaffrey too. Shouts out to Christian McCaffrey. He should win MVP. He won't, but he should. You know,
Yeah.
I Umar's comments are interesting. I just think he might have a reply to whatever retort that someone wants to bring up. But the fact that the retort is going to come up to me is a bit problematic. So, and I can hear it now. That's how the internet works. You'll have people coming out of the woodwork saying, well, does that mean y'all can't be good at this? So, whatever. It is what it is.
Umar.
Yeah.